Hey there, Vikings faithful. You are listening to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle West. I got Adam Carlson.
I'm right here.
I got Kyle Smith.
And I'm over there.
We got a big show to talk about. We got draft
Well, it's
picks.
the big show.
We got draft picks. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about.
Lots of draft. That's probably because the draft's on Thursday, and we're all really excited about it.
I'm excited to never read another mock draft for like another year. We won't have to put up with that.
Hey, the 2016 mocks are already out.
Oh, don't even start.
It's never too early to start mocking, that's for sure.
Yes, it is.
On that, I'd like to welcome everyone to episode number 149 of the Purple People podcast. This one is titled Harold and the Hendersons. We'll talk about why that title is the way it is after I talk about how great Harry and the Hendersons is, because I love that movie.
I love Harry and the Hendersons, too.
Anytime you got a family to take in a Bigfoot, you're good to go.
John Lithgow.
That's right.
I mean, come on. What's not to love about that movie?
There's nothing not to love. Nothing funnier than Bigfoot.
Unless you are a Sasquatch, then maybe you find that movie racist.
How about a buddy cop movie with a Sasquatch and Paul Blart?
Oh my god, I bet Kevin Smith could write and direct that. Would be fantastic.
Boom, book it, Hollywood. There you go. Let's get into the quick hits, though, because we got a lot of draft to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Greg Jennings is officially no longer a Minnesota Viking. He has signed a deal with the Miami Dolphins for 2 years. It was a deal that I really thought that Miami really got the best of. I mean, they got to trade away their troublesome wide receiver, Mike Wallace, to Minnesota, dump his contract, then sign a reliable pass catcher in Greg Jennings for about half the price. I don't know. I'm just kind of sad that Miami got the kind of fleecing they did off Minnesota, and Minnesota's left without a guy like Greg Jennings on their team. It's just me being a little sad.
No, I'm excited for Greg Jennings to see his opportunities continue on in the NFL. It is kind of, as the world turns, so to speak, interesting to see that, you know, when these guys were free agents a couple seasons back, that Minnesota was interested in, oh gosh, I just drew a blank.
Mike Wallace.
Mike Wallace, and we ended up with Jennings, and now Jennings left, and we ended up with Wallace anyway, and they flip-flop teams, and it's just kind of funny how that stuff works out sometimes. But wish him...
It's the salary cap hits that the Vikings are taking on both these players this year that just makes me mad.
I know, in a weird roundabout way, we're kind of paying Greg Jennings to play in Miami.
Very true.
Yeah.
E.J. Henderson, former Minnesota Vikings linebacker, will announce the Vikings' second-round pick at the NFL draft. That will be on Friday if you guys are going to be watching the draft, because I know I will be, especially the second, third rounds. Heck, I'll be even watching the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh rounds.
I'll be watching the eighth.
Who cares if there's some boxing match going on between a couple guys? I'm watching the seventh round of the draft.
Amen.
I am not paying $99 for that fight. I am a pretty big boxing fan, but I'm like, no. For that price, no. I will stream it online for free.
I don't watch boxing. Never. Well, I haven't watched a boxing match since George Foreman was in the ring.
Cool.
So I'm going to say that I'm probably not a boxing fan. And I'm not watching this one.
I grew up watching HBO boxing with my dad and Showtime boxing, and it's just the price for that one is just through the roof, outrageous.
But it's free in Mexico if you live in Mexico.
Well, I do not.
Hop the border the other way to get some free boxing.
Ride a Segway across it. How did we get from Aaron Henderson to whatever we are talking about right now?
Draft.
Wow. Draft.
We're a bunch of squirrel brains. That's what we do here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was trying to transition to the seventh round of the draft, where all selections will be only 4 minutes long compared to the usual 5, to try to move things along at a little faster pace.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't know how much it's going to mess the teams up, but let's be honest here. It's not exactly compelling television down at that point. Although I don't necessarily know if the NFL should be fanoodling, there's that word for you again, with the draft just for the sake of making it be better television.
But here's my problem.
Mm-hmm.
those people that are selected in the 7th round, they are just the same as all the other picks in the draft.
Oh,
The
sure.
first rounders, the second rounders, it's people trying to get their foot in the door, make their NFL career, and get noticed.
Mhm.
And to kind of do this with the shortened time window, kind of even shortens the emphasis that they get at the end of the draft, where they could be showing a little highlight video of a guy and saying, okay, here he is. They're taking another little chunk of time away from them.
Mhm.
And I don't know. To me, I don't really think it's very cool because these are people's hopes and dreams and careers, livelihoods that are kind of being adjusted here. And it sounds weird to say that about 1 minute at an NFL draft per player. But I don't know. To me, I like to learn as much about a player as I can.
And
And that extra minute to
you know what, I
see a
am
couple
with
stats or something or a picture or something maybe could help.
I am with you on that one, Adam, because when you do watch the draft, it turns, like I said, to not be compelling when you get into those late rounds, because they're not even essentially talking about what's going on. It's just like, hey, this is another opportunity for us to talk about Johnny Manziel.
Right.
Remember when he was drafted like 5 rounds ago? Well, we're going to talk about Johnny Manziel some more. By the way, like 8 different draft picks have happened while this was going on. You know, if they would spend the time to just like mention a little bit about some of the other guys, it'd be a little more interesting for us at
Right.
home. But I
I
don't
never
know.
have liked that format. I haven't. I mean, when you're talking about a first or second round selection and it's a 6th round, and the best you see is the draft noise and a little ticker come across the bottom with the name of the guy that got picked, and his name doesn't even get said on television, that's poopy.
Twitter has really ate into how the NFL does their draft, because it's so. There was a couple years back that Twitter was 3 or 4, and I'm talking first round. They are 3 or 4 picks ahead of what was going on live television. If you
Oh, yeah.
follow the draft, you really need to be on Twitter, because it's really on point as to what's going on, and
I
you can
completely
get.
disagree. If you're watching the draft, stay as far away from Twitter as possible.
I'm so glad you said that because I'm doing a draft party Thursday and I am gonna cheat and I'm gonna figure out who the Vikings pick so I can win some free stuff. Not a bug.
There you
I
go.
enjoy watching it and finding it out when they have it on the TV. I don't even like on the TV when they show the guys answering their phones.
That's that's too reality show for me. I mean, I do like the surprise of the first round, but after we get out of the first round, pull up your Twitter and see what's going on, and that's where you're going to get actual information about these players, instead of, like I said, them glossing over what's actually going on to talk about Tim Tebow another time, or Johnny Manziel another time.
That is true. Well, we were talking about the 4-minute selection time for the 7th rounders. That has also been changed to include all compensatory picks. Now, that's kind of a weird situation because there are compensatory picks going on as early as the 3rd round.
Mhm.
And that's going to be kind of weird to go from that clock to 4 minutes to 4 minutes to next. So I don't know if that's going to kind of make
That's going to mess up.
flow funny or something, but
That's gonna mess up some stupid team like the Cleveland,
a-
like the Cleveland Browns are gonna end up missing and not turning in their card on time, and they're gonna miss a pick because of that. Can't
it's
you?
You know what?
possible.
That'll be my bold statement of the week right there because
Yeah.
I didn't have one because I never do my homework, kids. You should always do that. I'll go ahead and squeeze it in now. Because of this 4 minute clock change and them going as early as the third, I will say that there's a high likelihood that a team misses out and doesn't pick, and another team gets to jump up and steal potentially whoever they were going to take. I think that's awesome. And you're right, it's probably going to be a Jacksonville or a
Some
Cleveland.
stupid team. Well, because I mean the teams that, well, I mean I don't know. No one understands how those picks are handed out to begin with, so I won't even
The
go
formula to find them out is just absolutely
there.
insane.
It's like Einstein's theory of relativity equation when you look at it.
So how many of you guys still watch Family Guy?
Love it.
Nope.
Did you see them take a little jab at Adrian Peterson on this week's episode?
I did thanks to the Viking Age.
Personally, I kind of moved away from Family Guy because it has that mean-spirited sort of humor that I don't really care to take a part of. I prefer my humor to be more
Paul Blart.
genuine, and I can deal with Paul Blart humor. I can. But when it's mean-spirited towards actual real people, I can't get behind it. That's why I don't like South Park when a lot of people are like, "Oh, South Park's so great." They're making fun of real people. And I understand they're celebrities and that their lives are out there for people to do that with. But to me, especially in a situation like Adrian Peterson's where there was a child being abused, to me, I didn't find it very hilarious.
Well, for those of us who missed it, maybe Mr. Smith, quick recap.
Basically, for any of you guys that didn't see it, it's very, very short. I think it was maybe 15 seconds. It was a very poorly drawn Adrian Peterson, some guy that doesn't sound anything like him, walking next to what would be his son. And they're in what looks to be like a trail in a forest. And I don't know if the kid asked, but it went to the extent of, oh, look at all the stuff that I could beat you with. I laughed because they did it on TV. I can't believe they got away with it. I thought it was funny at the time, but yeah, it's kind of like you said. It sucks because I think that's the only recognition the Vikings have ever gotten on Family Guy, and of course it's going to be something negative. It always is. But yeah, Seth MacFarlane and the guys from Family Guy, they do what they usually do. They take something that's a sore subject and they publicized it for sure. And it was very, very bad taste.
Yeah, but that kind of humor appeals to some people, and maybe some Vikings fans found it hilarious. Others might not have. I don't know. To me, it didn't work for me, but to each their own. And apparently, my final quick hit: the Minnesota Vikings are, and I quote, pretty impressed with Teddy Bridgewater's off-season weight training. Now, they asked Teddy Bridgewater to go and beef up a little bit, get stronger, and come back. And apparently Teddy Bridgewater did not disappoint when he came back to team workouts. Good to see the boy working hard.
Mm-hmm. Good hard
No,
working
we don't
kid.
have a hot village of Marcus Russell on our hand.
Hey, you never know. Everybody likes purple drink once in a while. Alright, so let's take a rundown of the full list of the Minnesota Vikings 2015 draft picks. You need to know where the Vikings are going to be drafting, so you know when it's okay to go and grab yourself a refreshing beverage or a
But
hot
you
dog or
don't.
hamburger off the grill.
You don't because Rick Spielman. So you never know, man, when the Vikings, people who left draft parties early last year, missed out on Teddy getting drafted.
That is true. That is true. So for now, here's the picks the Vikings own. They have the number 11 pick in round 1. That's number 11 overall. They have number 13 in round 2, number 45 overall. Pick 12 in round 3, number 76 overall. Pick 11 in round 4, 110 overall. Round 5, pick 1. They got this one from the Bills in that trade that involved Matt Castle.
We get to set the tone in the 5th round of the draft.
It's true.
The first
Number 137 there. No 6th round picks because that one was dealt to Miami in that Mike Wallace deal. And the Vikings have 2 picks in round 7, number 11 and number 15. That's number 228 and 232.
Mm-hmm.
You forgot one, Adam. You forgot the pick where we deal Adrian Peterson to Arizona. Oh,
I've been hearing about this possible
Burn.
Adrian Peterson trade in the 2nd round if they miss out on one of their top running backs. And I guess it's possible from what I'm hearing, but I don't know.
If you guys haven't been following, it's been floating around on social media and NFL.com. They're saying that the Cardinals, if you guys, I hate to do this every week, but I like to get everybody involved. Talk about another team for 10 seconds. The Cardinals made the playoffs last year with their third string quarterback, just quarterback injuries. It sucks. If they had a legit Pro Bowl running back, I'm pretty sure you could have saw them play Seattle in the NFC Championship game. That's just my opinion, but they were fantastic early on. Held the best record last year up until I think week 11 when Carson Palmer went down. So they're saying that if one Todd Gurley or Melvin Gordon don't go to Arizona, that they might look to get AP, even though they're not really considering it now. I've heard that Dallas has not even blinked an eye and looked our way to get AP, even though it's been said that he wants to play there. But just since we were on the draft picks thing, just keep that in mind. That's my most intriguing thing of the draft day. I'm not saying that I want AP gone fully. I'm not saying I want him to stay fully, but I think if there was ever a time he was going to get traded, it's either going to be Thursday or Friday.
And you never know. You really never know.
I'm pretty convinced that if it does not happen on day one, like, it's not going to happen. I don't see the Vikings settling for some kind of second round deal and a player and whatever. Like, and if they're going to trade him, stay tuned in the first round for whatever. But if it don't happen then, like, he's Viking for this year. It's either that or he pulls a Barry Sanders and he retires. And I don't think he's going to do that, folks.
The only
No,
reason why I think he would go, and I think we would accept it too, is just because we know Rick loves those draft picks. We only have 7 this year. We don't have a 6th round. But I agree with you. I'm about 85 to 90% sure he's staying on the team, and the only way he's going is through a number 1 pick, which I don't think anybody's willing to give up. But you got to take a look at the other things too. I think there are 2 teams, maybe 3. I know 2 for sure that hold 2 first-round picks this year. So don't keep those out of the loop as well, even though we haven't heard interest from those teams. So it's
do
very,
you
very
remember what I said that it was probably the minimum that the Vikings would accept in a trade?
first round and a starting caliber.
No. Not that stupid report. What I said, what Adam Carlson said.
Enlighten
Adam
me.
said that the minimum it would probably take for the Vikings to deal Adrian Peterson would be a 2nd and a 5th. And with that happening, there is a possibility that could be a day 2 trade.
We shall see. This would not be the first time, Adam, that we have discussed the topic and then just been completely wrong a day later. Remember when we had that big discussion about Greg Jennings?
I remember this
And
absolutely and completely.
Yes, and how he's going to be super important to the team, and everyone who says the Vikings are going to cut him are going to be dumb. And then I swear we posted the podcast, and the very next day, the Vikings cut Greg Jennings, and we felt like such tools for that episode.
Sure did.
Oh, but hey, that's what makes it fun, right?
It is. That's part of the fun of the unpredictability of NFL football. And especially when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, they've become one of those franchises that you can't really bet anything on. Because just when you think everything's going normal and everything's fine, you got boat trips, you got Percy Harvin stuff, you've got Adrian Peterson, you've got Chris Cluey, you've got so many other just crazy stuff going on. I swear that Minnesota's trying to just implode their own team at times. It's hard to be a fan with so much bad going on, but this team is headed in the right direction, so it's hard not to get excited too in that same respect. So we went on both Facebook and Twitter. I don't know if we got any good responses on Twitter or not. But on Facebook, we asked you guys, is there a player in the draft that isn't talked about much that you would love to see the Vikings grab in the mid to late rounds of the NFL draft? I mean, we've been talking a lot about that number 11 pick. As a matter of fact, that's all pretty much anyone's been talking about with the Vikings. When you have a draft that's this good, with this many players that are talented and can contribute later on, we need to discuss these players. We do. And some of our followers on the Facebook page had a couple names that they threw out that they really liked. Douglas Freshley says Nigel Harris or Kevin Riddick. Tremaine Kong says Chris Conley, the wide receiver out of Georgia, which is a pretty cool name there. Gotta love that. Quandre Diggs, cornerback out of Texas. I think I said corner. If I said quarter, I'm sorry. Zach Zenner, the running back out of SDSU. A couple of those southern Minnesota guys probably are familiar with him. Kyle Emanuel, the outside linebacker from North Dakota. Kevin McMahon says that he could be plugged in at the inside linebacker position for Zimmer. He says he's got a nice motor, good size, he's athletic. And it's got 2 thumbs up, so a couple people agree with him there.
Yeah.
I have a really good Twitter response, but it was to another question, but it's so good I'm going to read it after you guys are done.
Mr. Kyle Smith has a name that he'd like to pronounce.
Harry Flegel III commented on this and said he likes Hau'oli Kikaha Washington.
There you go.
I'm sure that I messed that up, but I got volunteered to try to pronounce that name instead of Babatunde. What's his last name?
Igbusi.
Agbusi. Yeah. Can't believe I remember
Personally,
that off the top of my head.
with
But
that second round pick, there's a guy that hasn't been talked about a lot in a position that isn't linked to the Vikings as often as it should be. Now, you guys know that last episode I talked about a little bit of my love for Alvin Bud Dupree.
Mm-hmm.
If the Vikings don't grab a pass rusher with that first pick, they might look at one in the second round. And if a guy like Eli Harold is available, University of Virginia, he is one of those guys that if it was any other draft and there weren't so many elite level pass rushers available, this guy would be a top 15 pick. But because of the depth at the position and all the players available, he's likely to end up being a mid to beginning of second round pick. And that is why I'd love to see him end up in Minnesota.
Well, that's a Rick Spielman pick if I've ever heard it before, right?
hey,
it's all because of the depth at that edge rusher position in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the episode is Harold and the Hendersons.
Oh, see, there we go. And now I get it.
He Miyagi'd us. I like it.
Yeah. I had a really good one on Twitter that I want to read. It was for a response to another question that you guys posted, but it's
All right.
a really funny one. When you guys posted it on Facebook, if the Cardinals miss out on a top-tier running back in the draft, could they be looking to deal for Adrian Peterson? We discussed that earlier.
Sure.
Well, at Vikings coach John responded, take Gurley at 11 and make sure they miss out on the running backs. I
Nice.
really like that. So thank you, John. That is an excellent response to that. And 11 might be a little high for Gurley based on injury history, but I would be comfortable with him as like a Rick Spielman trade back into the end half of the first round and pick up Todd Gurley.
I've been seeing Gurley mocked extremely early in a lot of drafts, and personally, I only have one running back taken in the draft, and it's late
Mm-hmm.
in the first round of the draft. And
Him going to San Diego like 17. I've been seeing that a
Yeah.
lot. I don't know. That'd be pretty nice. So I'd shed no tears to see us pick up Todd Gurley. I would not be mad about that at all.
I would not be pleased.
I'd be perfectly fine with it, but
But hey, I have never been the kind of guy that goes for flash over substance, you know? I would rather have that hardworking offensive lineman, the
Actually,
gritty guy that gets his hand in the dirt.
if we're talking running backs, I'd be a homer and I say, you know what, David Cobb from Minnesota, Golden Gopher from Minnesota, bring him into the system. Like he seems like a guy that would fit with North Turner and the offense that we run, and he'd want to be here. Bring him in if we're talking about backs.
And I know I'm in the minority, but I like Melvin Gordon
Yeah.
better.
Oh, no, absolutely. Wouldn't be mad about either one of those guys.
But I don't want either of them at 11. But I am also the same guy that didn't want Adrian Peterson drafted by the Vikings. I wanted a certain quarterback out of Notre Dame.
Who was that? I don't remember that draft class.
I'm not even going to say the name because I'm embarrassed that I felt that way at the time.
Was it Brady Quinn?
It was Brady Quinn.
Brady Quinn. You know what? I was
Wow.
a big fan of Brady Quinn, and I believe it's just another team that Cleveland ruined him.
Adrian Peterson over Brady Quinn. Man, I'm glad I called that guy.
Oh. Yeah, that's probably the biggest scouting mistake. Well, before I actually started scouting, back then I was just like, Vikings need a quarterback. He's a quarterback. Seems like a good one. Why not?
Yeah.
And now I actually do research, so now I know better.
Hey, he's making a comeback.
Don't
Just you
call
wait.
it a comeback. He's been here for years.
That is true.
Did
That is
anyone
true.
get that reference? Any of you two?
What? Come on.
Oh, you know I did.
I'm ashamed you even asked that.
Just making
Two out
sure.
of three ain't bad.
All right, so that is actually all I have for this week. I don't know if you guys have anything else that you wanted to add.
I do have something. Check out the VikingAge.com. Check out the Facebook page. Purple People Podcast. Send us a message. Write on the wall. Comment on stuff. We put up stuff every single day. And Wednesday and Thursday, I know Adam and I will be taking over the Facebook page. Tell us who
True.
you think we'll pick. If news unfolds of some crazy trades, give us your thoughts. Go to the Twitter page at Purple People Pod. You can talk to Kyle West, and he'll talk a bunch of smack to you. And hey, maybe we'll feature you next week. I don't know. Give us
Now,
some
like
thoughts.
you were saying about the Viking Age, we actually just brought on 3 new writers to the site. One of them is one that listeners would probably be very familiar with, Todd Walkingstick. I don't know if you're familiar with his blogs. He does a great job covering training camp and previewing games and things like that. If you've ever been to Walkingstick's blog, he does a fantastic job, and I'm so glad to have him as a part of the family at the Viking Age. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do there. Have you guys seen a lot of his stuff?
I have not, but now that you said that, I will purposely be looking to see what writer it is up top and to leave some comments at the bottom.
Because he is one of those faces that you always see at training camp. And you always see the pictures that he's taken on there. A lot of the pictures that get circulated around on Twitter and on Facebook from training camp come from Mr. Walkingstick. So I'm really excited to have him a part of the team. As soon as I saw he applied, I was excited about that. We are still accepting applications. So if you have a real love for the Vikings and you ever want to feel like you want to write and get your name out there and tell people how you feel about the team, feel free to apply. And the same thing goes with the other site that I work on Undead Walking. If you love The Walking Dead, want to talk about it, want to write about it, send in an application. That's all it takes. It's all it takes to get started. It really is.
One more thing before we sign off. If you guys have anything for us, we don't say this very often, but it's always on the table. We don't want to beat a dead horse every week. But if you have anything that you might think the show would be better improved on, I know we had a message about last week. We got a little buck wild and crazy and went kind of rated R. If you guys want us to tone it back a little bit, we will listen. We will discuss amongst the 3 of us and try to accommodate to you guys. So if you got any ways we can improve the show, send us a message or comment or whatever, and we'll definitely take a look at it.
Absolutely. We are here just to talk football. And if people want to listen, that's cool. We appreciate it. We really do.
We hope you listen.
We hope you do, and we want you to enjoy it when you listen. So if you want us to talk more about Sidney Rice, we'll try to talk more about Sidney Rice. Don't know why you'd want that, but
I'm a Sidney Rice fan.
We can make it
I have
happen.
a Sidney Rice jersey. I haven't worn it in a while, but I have one.
We all got a couple of those jerseys in the closet that we haven't touched in a while, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got a Favre that I've never even worn.
I have a Favre one, but it's too big. I couldn't. I got it.
My Favre's too small.
How funny. We had a sporting goods store.
Okay, never mind. Swing and a miss.
It's all right. That's all right. On that note, I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Remember to head on over to the Facebook page and go on Twitter at Purple People Pod. Mr. Kyle West will take care of you nicely over there.
Try to.
In the meantime, stay classy, Minnesota.